Domain and range seems to be the most difficult part of Algebra 2. So we'll go over some things again, make sure everybody's clear on domain and range. So here we have some weird function. Let's use our sticky pad idea. If I had a sticky pad, now first we're going to do domain and range is left and right. Okay. If I put a sticky pad over here where the picture ended, you can see that my picture does not go below -7. It doesn't keep going. It stops at -7. So -7 is my limit, and that's where I stop. So let's put our sticky pad on the other side because we're doing domain and range. So we're doing left to right. And it looks like my picture does not go past 8. And I know you might have to count squares every once in a while, but I believe my picture does not go past 8. If my picture starts the lowest thing at -7 and stops at 8, then domain starts with -7, that's the lowest, and it ends in 8. Now let's go back to our idea of interval notation. Interval notation tells people where to start and where to end. So I'm supposed to start at -7 and end at 8. But I need to tell them something else. I need to tell them if -7 is part of the answers. Well, if you look right up here, there's an open circle. And an open circle is a great big message. Hello, -7 is not an answer. So how do I tell somebody -7 is not an answer? I put a parentheses because a parentheses tells somebody that's not an answer. You get really close to -7, but you can't use -7. Now let's look over here at 8. There's a closed circle which says, yeah, it's okay. 8 is a solution. 8's part of the plan. We can use 8. So therefore it is a bracket. Brackets mean, yes, I can use it, I can reach it, I can touch it. But -7, I cannot. All right, let's start taking care of range. Same thing we're going to do. We're going to take our little sticky notes and we're going to try to make our picture decide where our picture stops and where our picture starts. Well, if you put a sticky note right here, you realize that our picture does not go below -3, does it? So -3 is our limit. Well, I think I can put my sticky note right here because my picture does not go above 7. Now, I don't care exactly where things are. I'm interested in the picture as a whole. And my picture does not go above 7. I don't care where it intersects. I don't care where this point is or this point. I am interested in my picture. Okay, so my picture ends at 7. So my limits are -3 to 7, which means my range starts at -3. That's my lowest limit. It ends at 7. That's my highest. Now let's look down here at -3. That's a solid circle. Solid circles tell you yes, that is an answer. So you can use a bracket. Now if you look up here at 7, this confuses people because there's no solid circle or open circle, so they think something must be going on. But what really is not here is an open circle. If it rolled up there, looks like it touched it and came back down, then it touched it. And if it touched it, it's a bracket. It's a possible answer. The only way you would put parentheses right here is if there was a big open circle right there. But there's no open circle, so as far as we know, they didn't tell us, it didn't touch it. All right, let's put our sticky notes for domain. There's our first sticky note for domain. Remember, domain is left and right. So my picture does not go below -6. See right there, my picture stops at -6. Let's put it right here. My picture stops at 3. So my limits are -6 and 3. That's where it is. Therefore, my domain starts at -6. We always start with the lowest, and it ends at 3. Now we have to decide about brackets and parentheses. Well, there's a closed circle right here that gives me a clear message. -6 is an answer. -6 is an answer. But 3 is not. Look at that big open circle right there at 3. Nope, it's not an answer. Therefore, I need to put a parentheses. You can get right up close to it. You can get it 2.9999, but you cannot use 3. All right. Let's try range. Range is up and down. Range is up and down. So I put my sticky note, and I realize my picture does not go below -4. And then I put my sticky note up here, and I realize my picture does not go above 8. So my limits are -4 to 8 for my picture. All right, now let's look at range, -4 to 8. We already decided that. Down here at -4, there was a closed circle, which means I can use -4, which means a bracket. But if you look right up here at 8, there's an open circle, and that's a message, and the message is you can't use 8. So there has to be a parentheses. All right. Now let's say I don't want to use the sticky pads. I'm tired of using them. I want to figure it out on my own. That's okay. You can just draw yourself a quick little box. And as long as your box holds the whole picture, as long as your box holds the whole picture, then you're okay. Let's look at domain. Domain goes from -6, that's our lowest, to 3, which is our highest. Remember, domain is left and right. So we know it's -6 to 3. So our interval notation, -6 to 3, -6 has a closed circle, 3 has an open circle. Closed circle, open circle, and I'm going to expect you to know what that means. Closed circle means yes, -6 is an answer. Open circle means no, 3 is not an answer. Now if we were doing set notation, we would go ahead and put in less than or equal to, because this is a closed circle, and we would put in less than, because that's an open circle. So that's set notation. Now let's look at range. Range is top to bottom. If we look down here, it looks like the lowest thing in my picture is -4, and the highest thing is 8. I don't care about y-intercept. I don't care about points. I don't care about anything. I want to know where my picture is. And my picture is between -4 and 8. All right, in interval notation, well, -4 has a closed circle, so that's a bracket. It is an answer. 8 has an open circle. That is not an answer. Therefore, it needs a parentheses. And how would we write this the same way? Now, one of the keys here is that y right there. Don't forget, we're no longer using x. X is a domain. This is range, so this is y. And then less than. All right. Let's do this one. We have a sticky note over here because it was really easy to see that we're doing domain. Domain is left and right. It's really easy to see that the picture stops right here. So my picture stops at 5. But when I go over here to try to put a sticky note, well, there's an arrow right here, and that arrow means it goes all the way across the page and down off my desk, and it never quits. Well, if it never quits, I can't put a sticky note over here. What really happens is it goes to negative infinity, doesn't it? Okay, so if it goes to negative infinity, then I think my domain starts at negative infinity because we start at the low one. That's the lowest thing it can be, and it ended at 5. So let's start thinking about brackets and parentheses. Okay, can you ever reach negative infinity? I cannot. Can never reach negative infinity. So that's got to be a parentheses. If you can't reach it, it can't be a solution. I can't plug it in somewhere. Now 5 has an open circle, and that's real easy to tell. That means 5 is not an answer, and I can put a parentheses. All right, let's put our sticky note on range. But that top part is easy to see. 5, my picture's not going above 5. That's really obvious. But when I try to put my sticky note down here, I still got that arrow thing that's driving me crazy. So it's really going to negative infinity. So my range is negative infinity up to 5. And again, I can't reach negative infinity. It's not a value, it's not an answer, it's a parentheses, and 5 has an open circle, so that's a parentheses. All right. Easy to see, domain, domain. Easy to see where my picture stops there. My picture doesn't go past negative 6. But I have no way of putting one over here because there's another one of those arrows. I don't know where it stops. Well, it stops at infinity. So I can't really say it stops at 1 just because it ran off the page. And some of you will do that. It'll run off the page at 1 and you'll say, oh, well, it stopped at 1. No, it didn't. That nifty arrow right there tells me it went on forever. So my domain starts at negative 6. We always start at the low one and ends at positive infinity. Infinity certainly is going to have a parentheses, and this is an open circle, so this is going to be a parentheses. Easy enough to see for range. Range is up and down. It can't go past 2. My picture doesn't go past 2. But when I try to put a sticky note down here, it didn't work, did it? There's that arrow. It's going forever. I can't fix it. So my range is negative infinity because we always start at the lowest. And on range is when you're going to have trouble with it. It's natural on domain. I don't know why. But range, y'all just get it backwards all the time. Start with the lowest, which is negative infinity. And then the highest is 2. Is there an open circle at 2? No. They didn't tell us. They didn't give us a message that 2 was not an answer. So if 2's not an answer, if they didn't give us a message, then 2 is an answer. And if 2 is an answer, it's a bracket. All right, this one is nice and easy on domain. It starts at negative 7. It stops at 5. Negative 7 to 5. That's easy enough. This one's closed. This one's open. Bracket, parentheses. That's all good. Now, when I went to put my range sticky note, I realized that it doesn't go below negative 7, so that's okay. But where do you put your sticky note? On top. Now, please remember, it's about the picture. It's not about y-intercept. It's not about where the point starts and ends. It's the picture. So this is where my sticky note goes. Now, is my whole picture in there? Yes, it is. Since my whole picture is in there, good. All right, now, It stops at -2, and we all know how to write that. It starts at -7. It always starts with the lowest, goes to -2, highest. This one has an open circle at negative. Now, look, that's not it. That right there is not at -7. So that doesn't affect us. What's at -7? An open circle. Therefore, that's a parentheses. And what's at -2? Well, there's no open circle. There's nothing to tell me I can't use it. Therefore, it's got a bracket. All right, we'll run through this one real quick. -6, 6, domain. -6, +6, bracket, parentheses. All right. Sticky note at negative, that's supposed to be -2, isn't it? And sticky note at 5. So now we have -2, because that's our sticky note, to 5. All right. Let's do this last one. Okay, -5, 7 is the name of this point, isn't it? -5, 7 is the name of this point. What is the x value? -5. What is the y value? 7. So if you ask me for domain, well, the x value for this point is -5. And the x point for this point is -3. And the x for this one is -2, 3, 5, and 7. So if somebody asked me for the domain, I would just pick the x values for each one of these points. Just like that. Well, then what is domain? Well, let's look. In this one right here, in this point right here, range. Range is the y value, so that would be 7. Well, let's look at it. I have 7. I have 4. I have 1 and -2. So my range would be -2, 1, 4, and 7. Now, let's decide if it's a function. How do we find out? Well, we could make a map or we compare, but there's something a whole lot easier. Somebody gives me a picture. Hey, I love a picture. Let's draw a vertical line. If you drew a vertical line right here, does it hit 2 points? No. If you drew a vertical line here, does it hit 2 points? Or here? Or here? Nowhere, if you drew a vertical line, would it hit 2 points. So yes, this is a function. All right, let's decide what domain is. Well, domain, see there's points right here at -6, -2, 2, 4, and 6. So my domain, -6, -2, 2, 4, and 6. Right, range is the other way, right? Okay. So I think we have a range of negative, see there's 2 points at -2, -1, 2, 3, 6, and 7. There are points at all those places, -2, -1, 2, 3, 6, and 7. All right. Is it a function? Well, if I drew straight lines, vertical lines, look what happens right there. It hits 2 different points. We know it can't do that in a function, so it is not a function. Do you see the other place? There's actually one more right here. So that's a quick review of domain and range, and like Locutus of Borg says, resistance to domain and range is futile.